Batman has finally arrived, so it's time to rank all of the Batman movies. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to do any of the animated movies because I think that's just unfair to compare them, because there are some things that an animated movie can do that a live-action movie can't, and there's some things that a live-action movie can do that an animated movie can't. So I will not be ranking the animated movies in this list, but I will be ranking all of the live-action movies for the Batman. So let's get started. There are 12, I think, so let's just get down to it. Coming in at number 12, bottom of the barrel, it is Justice League The Whedon Cut. That's what I think of when I see this movie. No, but seriously, this movie's a mess. There's so many things wrong with it, and I'm not even going to get into the behind-the-scenes stuff that was happening. That's just awful to hear, and it kind of is a testament to Joss Whedon being allegedly a total garbage of a human being, that he makes a total garbage of a film. And just speaking from a Batman perspective, like, what a full 180 he does from Batman v Superman to Justice League. I mean, in Batman v Superman, he's this dark, brooding character that doesn't want to deal with anybody. He's just a loner. He hates life. But in this one, he's like, okay, I need to recruit everybody. I like being around people. Let's recruit teammates. And he's like, guys, we desperately need Superman. We desperately need him. And all the one-liners he does, I mean, it's okay, but it's just such a betrayal from what the Batman versus Superman character was. It was awful. The villain is awful, and Steppenwolf it's just a bad movie. So that's why, in terms of the Batman, it's on the lower end scale of this ranking, and it's actually dead last in this ranking. Coming in at number 11, I don't think people are going to like this, but it is just my opinion. It is Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I don't care which version you give me, theatrical release, Ultra Edition, Ultimate Edition, whatever. They all suck in my opinion. This movie is also a jumbled mess. There's so many things going on. I will say there are a lot of good things too. I do love Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm still sad that he never got his own solo film. That's really disappointing. His entire story, that part, really good. Everything else, not good. It just makes no sense because you have a great cast on paper. Henry Cavill will always be Superman for me. But the way they use him in this movie was terrible, and oh my god, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, that might be one of the worst castings in movie history. I'm not saying he's a bad actor, he's a good actor. He does not fit Lex Luthor at all. He doesn't even act like Lex Luthor. He acts like Jim Carrey's the Riddler for the entire movie. Just like, whoa, you don't want to shake hands with this guy. Whoa, oh, here's some Jolly Ranchers, huh? Let me just shove it down your throat. No. That's not Lex Luthor for me. And then adding Doomsday at the end of the movie as like some kind of afterthought villain really hurt me, because I consider him one of Superman's greatest villains. You take one of the greatest moments in comic book history, one of the most iconic, Superman's death, and you waste it in like the last 15 minutes of this movie. This movie did not earn that ending. I mean, it was way too early to kill Superman. Just awful. And can we also talk about how when Wonder Woman gets this email about all these other superheroes that Batman's looking to recruit, why Barry Allen, the fastest man alive, gets caught by a gas station camera? What? And not to mention Aquaman just sitting awkwardly in the middle of the ocean, just like, what is he doing? Who was filming? Like, there's so many unanswered questions. This movie is just a jumbled mess. Terrible. It's just so bad. It's so bad. So that's why it's second to last. It's not as bad as Whedon's cut, but it's bad. And coming in at number 10, I actually feel bad for putting this here, and it's going to be the 60s Batman movie. I don't have a problem with Adam West's era of Batman. I understand people who grew up with it, that, grew around that, love that version. It's just that, growing up, I was surrounded by darker superhero movies like Spider-Man in 2002 when that came out. It was actually a really dark superhero movie. There's blood and everything. Then, of course, you go around the Tim Burton Batman movies, the Dark Knight trilogy. You're just surrounded by such dark superhero movies that when you go and watch Adam West, it just takes you out of it. It's just not for me. But I can't help but appreciate its charm. Like, I don't know why. Just seeing all the villains together is kind of fun. And I think this movie can be summed up in one clip.
Pretty fishy what happened to me on that ladder.
You mean where there's a fish, there could be a penguin?
But wait, it happened at sea. See? C for Catwoman.
Yet, that exploding shark was pulling my leg.
The Joker.
It all adds up to a sinister riddle. Riddler?
Yeah, definitely watching that movie was a bit chilling. Wait a minute. Chilling? Mr. Freeze? And I did watch this movie around 2 o'clock. Wait a minute, 2? Two-Face? I mean, this movie really is the bane of my existence. Wait a minute. Bane of my existence? Bane? Oh, okay, I'll stop now. I'm just gonna put it at the 10. It's a pretty enjoyable movie, but it's too much for me. It's just not for me. All right, coming in at number 9. I think people are going to hate me for this. It's Batman and Robin. I enjoy this movie. I don't know what it is. I'll be honest, out of every movie on this list, I enjoy watching this one the most for some reason. I think because it's some kind of nostalgia thing. I grew up watching Batman and Robin, so like me, my brother, and my sister always just watch this movie. It's the one movie where all three of us just enjoy watching together, and I just can't help but have good laughs. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze is hilarious with all his ice puns. George Clooney is a terrible Batman. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, not great, but she's funny. I mean, this movie's a colossal mess, and there's a reason why we didn't get any more Batman movies for like a whole decade. It basically killed superhero movies. That's how bad it was, but God, is it an amazing mess. So that's why I have it so technically high on this list. All right, coming in at number 8, we have Batman Forever. This is one movie that I have always loved from when I was a kid till now. I actually still like this movie when I rewatched it for my review. I think Val Kilmer gets the Andrew Garfield treatment in terms of, I think that if he was given a better script, he would be in the conversation for best Batman actor. I really think he had the potential. He was a good Bruce Wayne. He was a good Batman. He was just unfortunately in this script. And that's the biggest problem I have, is that the script is kind of all over the place with Riddler trying to do the whole box thing and steal people's minds. Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face is terrible. That's not Two-Face. That's just him trying to outdo Jim Carrey because apparently they didn't like each other behind the scenes. So that didn't work for me. Chase Meridian is a terrible love interest. Her whole thing is that she just wants to date Batman. That's her character. That's not great. So this movie has its problems, but I can't help but like it. Again, it's that charm of this movie that I just can't help but like. And I do have a soft spot for Val Kilmer's Batman, which is why I have it above Batman and Robin. All right, coming in at number 7, this one might be another controversial thing. I have Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Now, here's the thing. I do love this movie. In fact, from Batman Forever on, I actually love all of these movies. This was such a great thing to happen. I was so happy for Zack Snyder to finally get the cut that he wanted, the movie that he wanted to make, and I'm so happy that the fans loved it, because that's what it's all about. I do think that this movie is a bit too long, and I know in my initial review, I don't think I complained about the length, but when I tried to rewatch it, I was just like, man, this movie is pretty long. There are some scenes where I was like, man, maybe they can cut that scene down just a little bit. I mean, and for God's sakes, if I hear Wonder Woman's little that little operatic theme, if I hear that one more time, I'm gonna lose it. Like, I didn't need to hear it every time she was on screen. I still think Steppenwolf as a villain wasn't that great. They gave him more backstory in this one, which I like. He just still wasn't that interesting of a villain for me, and I can't help but feel bittersweet about how the movie ends. I mean, you tease Darkseid, you tease all this amazing stuff, and it just seems like there will never ever be a follow-up to it because Ben Affleck is no longer Batman. They still haven't signed Henry Cavill to be Superman. I don't know what's going on with DC. They've completely messed this up, so it is kind of a bittersweet thing to watch this movie. Coming in at number 6 is Batman Begins, the one that started it all for the Nolan trilogy and the one that started to save Batman's legacy in terms of the movies. I love this movie. This is a great film. I love Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I don't know why he's getting hate all of a sudden, as somehow he's the worst Batman and Bruce Wayne of all time. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I like Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne. I also love Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul. It was nice to see a good live-action portrayal of that character. I think Cillian Murphy was a great Scarecrow. Really underutilized. I wish he was used more. I think Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow would work very well in the new universe that we have in the Batman universe. But in this one, he was used very well, and Cillian Murphy is always a win. But the problems I have with this movie are, you know, it's still setting things up, so you're still... I don't think Nolan truly understood what he had yet. And of course, I never liked the character of Rachel Dawes. It just didn't work for me. There just wasn't nothing there. I just didn't like it at all. And plus the action scenes were a little too much for me. The whole like shaky cam and just really big close-ups. It didn't give the action scenes its justice. I feel like they could have done it a lot better. I don't think Nolan truly understood what he had yet, because Batman movies were at such a low bar because of Batman and Robin that the reputation was so low. But Nolan knocked out of the park, and we got one of the greatest trilogies of all time. So that way I have Batman Begins right here on this list. Here we go. We're at the top 5. And at number 5, I have Batman 1989. Man, this was a good film to revisit. I like Michael Keaton as Batman. I can't wait to get him back as Batman in the new Flash movie. I've missed you, Michael Keaton. Such a good job. This movie is so much fun. I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker, as does everybody. Who doesn't love Jack Nicholson as the Joker? He is so cartoony that he has this perfect balance of some scenes he's super cartoony, like in the museum scene, but then he's also really sinister and really evil, and you do not want to mess with him. A good balance. Now, where this movie starts to get bad for me, I never liked how they treated Jim Gordon. He's just like this other cop. I just didn't like it whatsoever. And besides Batman and Joker, every other character is not good at all. I didn't like Vicky Vale. Every other character pretty much sucks besides our two leads, and that's what kind of holds this movie back. I do love the setting, I love the Batmobile, I love the score, everything is great. Except the side characters. That's what's terrible. That's why I have it at number 5. Coming in at number 4, this one might be a controversial opinion. I don't know. I don't personally think it is. It's The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know why people are crapping on this movie. This one is so good. Yes, it's on the slower side because it's meant to be a slower movie. It's a slow burn of a movie because you're dealing with the aftermath of The Dark Knight. You're not going to see Batman for a while because guess what? He stopped being Batman for the greater good of Gotham. I think Christian Bale probably puts in his best performance as Bruce Wayne and Batman because you truly see him at his most vulnerable. And the scene he did with Alfred where he says goodbye to Alfred, super emotional. And plus, Michael Caine in this trilogy was so good as Alfred. He is still the best Alfred so far in this live-action Batman movies. Even though I did like Andy Serkis as Alfred, he's still not Michael Caine yet. Maybe you give him more things to do in the next Batman movie, sure. But for now, Michael Caine is still the definitive Alfred for me. I think Tom Hardy as Bane was so good. I know people are complaining about Bane. He's not this big hulking dude. But then again, Nolan was doing a super realistic take on Bane. So I think that's the best you're going to get. And I think Tom Hardy was incredible. People like to make fun of his voice, but guess what? People still hear that voice. It is, honestly, it's pretty iconic. The fact that people meme it, the fact that people talk about it, it shows that it really is iconic. And I personally liked his version of Bane. What sucks is that he had to follow Heath Ledger's amazing performance, so I feel like he never, ever was going to live up to it. But he did the best he could. And I personally like Tom Hardy as the villain in The Dark Knight Rises. The only thing I do not like about The Dark Knight Rises, actually two things. I did not like Talia al Ghul at all. I thought that was kind of rushed, and I just didn't like the chemistry between her and Bruce Wayne. I didn't like it at all. And how they kill Bane, terrible. I mean, you treat him as this unstoppable force, and he dies by a gunshot. Yes, it was on the bat cycle, so it was like this freaking cannon of a bullet. I just didn't like the way they got rid of him. I feel like Nolan could have thought of a better way to get rid of Bane, but that wasn't it. Here we go, guys. Top 3. We are in the best Batman movies. Truly the upper echelon of the Caped Crusader films. And at number 3, I have Batman Returns. I was blown away by how much I love this film when I revisited. Because before I did my review, I hadn't watched this movie since I was a kid. And to rewatch it, I was like, oh my god, where has this movie been in my life? First of all, the tone is incredible. And that's just me loving Tim Burton's directing style. I've always loved the way he sets films up in terms of tone and setting, how everything looks gothic, very comic booky, which is very reminiscent of early 90s, late 80s Batman comics, which I love. I absolutely adore Danny DeVito as Penguin. I don't know why people make fun of him as Penguin. He was so good, super emotional, super complex. He tries so hard to be a good guy in the beginning, but society fails him, and he decides, you know what, society failed me, now it's time for payback, basically. And you can't help but like his character. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is still amazing as Catwoman. It doesn't age badly. I think her Catwoman was sadistic yet sensual. It was that perfect mix of Catwoman that we all saw in the comics. So it still holds up very well. I think Keaton does a lot better here as Batman, and plus his Bruce Wayne is vastly improved from the original 89 Batman. That was one thing I didn't like so much. I didn't like his Bruce Wayne in the 1989 film. He improved so much more in this 1992 film. I love the setting of it being during Christmas. This is probably still my favorite Christmas movie. Batman Returns is number 3 for me. Here we go, guys. We're at the top 2. Do I do the new film of The Batman, this cool noir crime epic, or do I do The Dark Knight, which is this crime thriller that really set a new bar for superhero movies? These movies are so good, and the fact that The Batman is already up here shows you how amazing this movie is. There's no recency bias, nothing like that. It really is a good film. But for now, I'm putting The Batman at number 2. The reason why, well, first of all, let me say how much I love this movie. I did an at-length review about it. The setting, the tone, the brutality, Robert Pattinson as Batman, the suit, the Batmobile, the villains, the storytelling. It was all out of this world. I mean, it met my expectations and then some. The score is incredible. Everything about this movie is great. I don't really have any major negatives. The only thing I had was that I think the way he flew that little paraglider suit, I thought it looked a little bit goofy for this movie. Hopefully they fix that. Other than that, this movie is flawless. I think with age, depending on how this trilogy is going to work, I'm going to assume this is going to be a trilogy. Depending on how this trilogy works out, I may put this a little bit higher. But for now, I'm putting this movie at number 2. But for number 1, guys, it is still The Dark Knight. This movie, like I said in my review, is beyond reviewing. This is such an iconic film. You know why I like this movie so much? It deals with Batman's morality. And that's what makes Batman the most interesting character, in my opinion, is his morality. He does not kill. There's a certain code he has where he does not cross a certain line. Because Batman himself is sick, just like his rogues gallery. But he knows the one thing to keep him separate from the other villains is that he cannot cross that line that they cross. That's what separates him. And that's what makes Joker such an interesting villain, because halfway through the film, he's like, okay, he does not want to kill. That's his code. Let me see what I can do to break his code. And the whole scene where he's like, hit me, and Batman's coming full speed in his motorcycle. What an amazing film, dealing with morality. The whole boat scene where Joker gives them each the detonator to the other side of the boat. That's also a great little short story that happens within this movie. And that's what's so good. Every single clip in this movie, it's like its own story being told. And it all weaves together perfectly to create this masterpiece of a film. Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face is, oh my God, it's so good. You know, it sucks for Aaron Eckhart because Heath Ledger's performance is completely out of this world. He deserves credit. He deserves his flowers too. Christian Bale deserves it too. Amazing. And man, everybody in this film does their job and then some. And that's why it is still not just the best Batman movie of all time, it probably is still the greatest superhero movie of all time, which is why it tops my rankings. Well, there you have it, guys. Tell me what you rank as the best Batman movie down in the comments below. But this is my ranking. Then again, it is just my opinion, so it's not the definitive ranking. I would like to hear your rankings though, so let me know. But for now, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.